everyone, welcome back to Hanna Worldwide and Friends, the podcast about living abroad. Please share it with your friends and family if you like it. You never know who needs to hear all about living abroad, going overseas, traveling the world, and be a little bit encouraged. Thank you so much for listening and for following around. I really appreciate you all. Hi everyone, please welcome with me Anne Au. Anne was born in Taiwan and has spent most of her childhood there before her family moved to New Zealand when she was around 12 years old. She then spent most of her teenage years and early adulthood in New Zealand and finished off her studies. With 24 years, Anne decided to go overseas to London, UK, and is living there ever since, which has been now 8 years. Hello, Anne.
Hello.
Thank you so much for having time. We are actually having a call right now from London to New Zealand.
Woohoo! It's been a big journey getting this technical side up and running. I'm glad it's working.
Yes, and I'm really grateful that you have the time for me and you today to record this episode.
You know what? Honor is all mine. I'm so excited about this. I've been telling people about this. I hope it goes well.
So, let's dive right in. So,
Okay.
what has been the reason for your family to leave Taiwan and move to New Zealand, and why New Zealand?
So, before we permanently moved to New Zealand when I was 12, we actually traveled back and forth between Taiwan and New Zealand. I think mostly it was because my mom's idea of our future, making sure that we have a bright future, we have all the resources that we have the experience of going overseas.
Yeah.
So every summer holiday from Taiwan, and since New Zealand is the opposite, Southern Hemisphere, it's like I can catch up with the New Zealand education system every summer when we have break in Taiwan.
Yeah.
So we kind of travel back and forth. And the final decision that there was actually two reasons. Well, mostly when I speak to my mom about it, she said it's because I wanted to come back to New Zealand. She said you have to write 10 reasons why you want to go back to New Zealand. And I made a list of 10, and we had the opportunity to come back. Well, go back. I'm not there anymore at the moment. So, yeah, that's really, it was because of me, to be honest. But at the same time, my mom had the opportunity to do PhD, like scholarship sponsored. I don't know how you say
Yeah.
that. PhD. So we moved to New Zealand and we stayed there until we graduated university and kind of, because the environment is so lovely. It's just so
Yeah.
calm, so chill. I bet you experience that as well.
Oh, yeah. Definitely one of the bigger reasons. Less people.
Yeah, exactly. And the environment is just like, it's so great. And I think my parents are both quite nature orientated people.
Yeah.
That's why we stayed, I think. Yeah.
Awesome. And can you remember any of these 10 reasons?
So I think one of which was that I could run barefoot on the playground, that sort of thing. And then something like, because in Taiwan you have to nap during the day when you're in primary, and I hated it
Yeah.
as a kid. I was like, oh yeah, you don't need to nap at lunchtime. And I was like, that is one of the good reasons. That sort of thing. Or there's just a lot more space as a child to run around. And I think that is why the reasons, that I wanted to go back. It was quite funny actually, because my brother copied my 10 reasons.
I see. So he wanted to go back as well?
Yeah, well, because he was 3 years younger and we were only, I guess he was only around 10 or 9 at that time. He just copied my reasons and we were like, okay. I was like, no, you can't copy mine. I still remember being really petty about it. But yeah, we were very lucky to have the opportunity to do all the traveling back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah. So, did I understand it right that you mainly went over when there was a break in Taiwan, anyways, so
Yeah.
that you kind of didn't miss out on anything?
Yes. Sorry, I'm going back and forth a little bit. But when
That's
I was
fine.
little, we did stay in New Zealand for 2 years, I think between 5 and 7, around that age. And that made a big impact on me. And I had to catch up on my learning on both sides, to be honest. Because when I went back to Taiwan, I had no like knowledge of how to speak Chinese, how to write in Chinese, how to read Chinese. Then when I came back to New Zealand every summer, I had to catch up on English as well. So it was
Wow.
quite a lot of constant catching up. But as a child, I just enjoyed being in this environment in New Zealand. Um,
Yeah.
so that made a lasting impact on me that I wanted to go back later on when we had the chance to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And once you went kind of over after the 10 reasons, your
yeah,
parents obviously agreed on moving back to New Zealand. But
yeah.
did you guys know that it will last for that long? Or was it also just see how it goes?
I
Yeah, see how everything is moving forward and then potentially deciding to still go back?
I think we had a time frame of when my mom finished her studies. But then I remember, I think we had a discussion whether we want to go back to Taiwan or continue staying in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And I think everyone in my family was quite settled here,
Yeah.
there, here, there, um,
Here, there, both.
everywhere. So we were quite settled in New Zealand, so we decided to stay. I think
Yeah.
it was a decision made together.
And as a child moving countries, and especially in your case, with like moving back and forth, and kind of being in the years of learning the most at school, learning how to have the writing in Chinese and English language, how difficult was it for you to kind of make up your mind in what you practice first? Did you have like an idea of which one is priority, or did it mix at one point where you didn't really know anymore which one is your
As,
first?
as a child, I was more like, listen to my mom. She tells me to do this, I do this. She tells me to do that, I do that. So I had to, like in Taiwan, I had to constantly write in English.
Yeah,
Um, all the movies we watch had to be in English, and it can't be dubbed over. It has to be, if we want to understand it, it would be subtitled.
yeah.
So even to this day, I can't watch a movie without subtitles sometimes, especially when they speak really quickly.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm just used to reading the subtitles regardless of what either language that I'm watching. But it was always mixed, and I had to make sure that I don't forget one or the other.
Yeah.
So in New
Which,
Zealand, we had to sorry. So New Zealand, we had to speak Chinese at home. In
yeah.
Taiwan, we had to constantly write in English and practice grammar. So it was a balance of both. But
Yeah.
yeah, just basically do as I told. I was told.
Honestly, it sounds kind of really cool, but also super difficult. Like being able to do it in one country where everyone speaks English to talk in Chinese, and then going back where everyone speaks Chinese, doing everything in English. That's, but it sounds like a really brilliant idea of learning, but also super difficult.
I don't, well, because I don't know any other way, and that's just
Yeah.
how it's always been. So from my point of view, I felt like it was just the process of making sure I don't forget.
Yeah.
And I completely understand. After growing up, I realized like all that I've done, all the things my mom told me to do, it's actually for a good reason. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so I think it was okay, manageable.
And it's often like once when we are a child, we kind of don't really understand why mom wants that and why
Exactly.
mom says this. And then being as an adult, actually able to admit that mom had some really good points and made us the person we are now. It's like,
Yeah,
thanks,
exactly.
mom.
Thank you. I don't hold a grudge anymore.
Yeah. Ah. So moving over, even though you have practiced English and all of that, but actually settling in New Zealand as a child must have been still quite difficult. When you went to school, how was it for you to get to know new people, make new friends, and especially the whole factor in how to fit in and in an environment where children can be quite mean sometimes, and you in that moment came from a different place, might have not spoken the language that well. So how was that whole experience for you, if you still remember?
Yes, actually. In I actually felt difficult to fit in both in Taiwan and New Zealand. In New Zealand, it was in Taiwan. It was not as much, but I still remember there were several times where people, other children, like in primary school, they would drag one of my friends away and say, "Oh, don't play with her because she looks different." Or I
Oh.
don't know why I look different. I'm just completely like purebred Asian, so I don't know what they're talking about. And I still remember those days. I kind of just like let it go, but I didn't really understand why. Could have been just the environment I brought up, or they knew that I was slightly different and just said something and didn't want to play with me. I
Yeah.
don't think I was mean, to be honest, when I was a kid. So that's definitely not a factor.
Maybe if you ask your brother, he would say something different.
Maybe. Probably don't ask him then. He's biased. I live with him, so that doesn't count. Um, but in New Zealand, it was because when we first came to New Zealand, there wasn't a lot of Asians around. So I was one of the few. And I didn't speak the language when I was between 5 and 7. And also, every time I come in and out. So it was a long period of time where I can actually develop friendships. I remember a time where I think my mom made like something with rice, probably like sushi, and
Yeah.
I brought it to school. I don't remember this, but my mom told me this. She said that I brought the lunch back in the car when she picked me up. I didn't have my lunch because other children were like, "Ew, what are you eating?" That sort of thing.
Oh.
It, I understand because kids are just afraid of differences, never seen it, they don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And I still remember also times where, like, I'm just in the playground by myself because I didn't really know how to speak English. I was just running around. I didn't feel sad, to be honest. I was completely fine. I was just watching the clouds and just being by myself and completely being content. So the fitting in was quite difficult, but with the
Yeah.
help of teachers and stuff, they buddied me up. So I still have a friend who I've known since I was 5 years old. She's amazing. I did make some friends
Yeah.
and occasionally keep in contact. I just think as a child, I didn't understand why I was different until
Yeah.
it was pointed out saying, "Oh, you eat different food, or you look different, or you don't speak the same language, or you sound different." Um,
Yeah.
so, but as I grow up, I was like, "What can you do? It's just kids being kids, kids being mean, and kids are really mean." Being a
Oh yeah.
teacher, I completely see that every day. I'm like, why do you do that? What is the point of that action? They're like, I don't know. But
Yeah. I
yeah,
also just want to fit in.
exactly. To be honest, yeah, everyone wants to just fit in.
Yeah. And honestly, even me being at school and look exactly like everyone else, they would
Mm.
still find something to pick on. And
Yes.
probably didn't help that I had like braces and glasses
Oh no.
and all of that fun stuff you don't want to have as a kid.
Oh gosh.
So yeah, it's just, yeah, children being children, but also I think looking different and speaking different and sometimes smelling different, or like not in a bad way, but just in
Mm.
using a different spices and all of that, like you said with your lunch.
Mm.
Like these little things, when we are an adult and we look at a situation like that, it's like really heartbreaking. But when you're in that situation as that child who doesn't know what that is, and as you
Yeah.
said, being afraid of everything which is different and all of that, and sometimes also just not wanting to be the person who gets bullied. So
Mm,
just being the bully to kind of prevent other people to pick on you is
mm,
like,
gosh.
which you probably know best as a teacher.
Yes, I do see that. But at the same time, in the environment I was in, there wasn't a lot of outside influences. It was just
Yeah.
in the immediate community. So after I came to London, started teaching, a lot of children in London has the environment where like you have people coming from around the world, different cultures, different religion, looks
Yeah.
different, dresses different, has different lunches, like all of those
Yeah.
sorts of things. So there's more of a tolerance and understanding of differences.
Yeah.
But in Taiwan, it's a small community. In New Zealand, it's a small community.
Yeah.
So as a child, didn't really matter to me, I guess. Not that I remember. I think it was more, my mom was more heartbroken when she heard what's
Mm.
happening in school. And this also reminds me of something that happened in my school where you have immigrants' parents coming in, and then children are just really quiet, and then they feel like other children who are like strong and big and strong start picking on them, and you're like,
Yeah.
I'm standing there, I'm trying to make sure that this doesn't happen. But then when
Yeah.
I see it happening and parents being really upset about it, I'm like, it makes me really sad as well because it reminds me of my mom. Not so much of me experiencing it,
Yeah.
it's more of the parents who has to suffer with the child when
Yeah.
something happens to them in school.
Oh,
So
yeah, I can imagine. And
yeah,
especially probably also blaming themselves sometimes, like, was it the right decision to go?
yes,
And is it the right decision to stay here? Was it right for my children, especially in a young age?
yeah,
Yeah, I can imagine it must be hard. And also for you now being so empathetic because you have been through it, you have seen your mom reacting and now kind of seeing it on other people, like you
mm.
must be really good in relating to them. So,
I think I cried one time because I saw something in school,
oh
and it was
no.
after school, and it wasn't in front of parents and children, so it's fine. But it does hit a soft spot for me when I see something like that happens. Yeah,
Yeah. Which I mean, it's nice to have that characteristic, but that you're able to relate to people and that you are then feeling like, okay, if I can help, I will do my best. Like you said, as a teacher, you're
yeah,
trying to prevent horrible situations from happening if you can. While some people are like, I don't want to be involved in that. I don't want to have anything to do with that. So let them just be and let them be children.
yeah.
So
No,
I
yeah, you
think,
have to. It's a teacher's responsibility, to be honest. Even though it's more than a teacher, you're like a counselor. You're also sometimes a parent. You have to do first aid. There's so much stuff. Anyway,
yeah.
anyway, I can keep on going with the list. But
Yeah, I bet. But coming back to the time when you were still a kid, if I know correctly, then even growing up, your mom still was going back to Taiwan every now and then, and you spent quite a few months or so with your dad and your brother. And how long has this been going on? That there was always a time when the family wasn't all together.
so my parents made huge sacrifices for me and my brother.
Yeah,
So when first of all we moved to New Zealand, my mom did her studies, and when she finished, she went back to Taiwan to continue her work there. My
yeah,
dad gave up his job to move to New Zealand to take care of me and my brother. So it was like a role reversal where my mom's in Taiwan working, and she has a lot of holidays because she's also in education sector. So she would come every break as much as she can.
yeah.
For me, that was in high school, and to be honest, I loved it. It was just, the age where you want some freedom. So I
Yeah.
kind of enjoyed it, to be honest. Um, it's, yeah, I feel like it gave me a little bit more of an independence.
Yeah.
Not massively, because I was still staying at home. But
Yeah.
yeah, independence. I enjoyed it.
That's good to hear because I remember when I was younger, I'm not too sure how old I was at that time, but my dad started or decided to study relatively late, I think with
Mhm.
30 or something. So most of his classmates were younger,
Mhm.
and he already had two kids.
Right.
And then from his studies, he decided to go half a year to Canada.
Oh, okay.
And it was a great opportunity for him. And now, in hindsight, it was awesome in that
Yeah.
time that it was possible. But for me as a kid, I remember I couldn't quite understand why he was gone for so long, and I
Okay.
missed him, and I
Yeah.
didn't really know why it was. Yeah, it was such a weird time. And I remember once we had to stay with my grandparents, and my brother started crying, and then I started
Oh
crying.
gosh. Oh no.
So that's a little bit of what I can remember. And of course my mom was all alone with us and had to work and
Mm,
had to deal with us and all of that.
mm.
So I remember it was quite difficult, but
Yeah.
hearing, I mean, you have been a little bit older, so I
Mm.
totally get the point that you enjoyed
I
that
enjoyed it.
freedom. Mom is not
Yeah.
watching. Woohoo.
Not that I went any like not that I did anything out of ordinary. It was just the
Yeah.
yeah, not having not having constant like not constantly being watched over. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
I get your part as well. Yeah. Definitely would
Yeah.
feel quite shocked to the system when one of your parents are not around, especially
Yeah.
when you're younger. Yeah.
And would you think that for your brother being a little bit younger, it was harder, or would you think he kind of enjoyed it as well to have a little bit of independency?
He's quite chill, so I can't really tell if it actually affected him at all. Because he was in high school as well. I think he was just finishing middle school. Um,
Yeah,
so he was old enough to understand what's going on, and like he's very independent as well.
yeah.
So he's
Probably he
more.
loved it.
You know what? He even though he's younger, he's much more like responsible than I am. He sometimes feel like more like acting like the older sibling than the actual way around.
Let's not tell him that.
Yeah.
Hopefully he's not listening to that episode.
He can. That's a compliment, so he can listen to it as much
Yes.
as he wants.
Yeah. What made you think about going overseas to London then? Do you think it was the independence and also seeing that your mom is going over and just like seeing it as such a normal experience to go to another country? Or what was your reason to go to London?
It was in stages, to be honest. So in uni, me and my brother went to Australia by ourselves for like holiday. That was the
Oh,
first time traveling without my parents.
wow.
And then after that, I graduated uni, and then I went to America to do camp counseling for 3 months, all by
That's
myself.
cool.
Traveled most of East Coast, not most, just a couple states, not a lot. Majority of the time I was in camp. I think because of flying around, going to another country was not a daunting thing. It was
Yeah.
just seemed as normal, and I went step by step, eventually going out by myself. And I actually, I hate to be honest, I really did not enjoy the camp whatsoever. I enjoy the activities like arts and crafts that was there, the archery that was fun.
Yeah.
But I from that experience I realized how much an introvert I was because in America everyone, well, at camp everyone's like extrovert, you need to be happy, you need to be loud. You have to and there I was like, I don't really want to be that loud. I just want to sit and read a book and do some arts and crafts. We can run around occasionally, but I'm not a big group kind of
Yeah.
person. And after that, went back to New Zealand, did some more studies, did some part-time job, and I couldn't because I studied for a teacher
Yeah.
role, by the time I got out of university, they were like, "Oh yeah, we don't have a lot of jobs for teachers." I was like, "A
Oh
year ago,
no.
you said there was a lot of people you need for teaching, and then now you say no, there's not." So it was quite difficult for me to find a teaching job. So I decided to go overseas. So I
Yeah.
applied for jobs in Asia, so Japan, South Korea. I wanted to go to Vietnam. I even applied for Hong Kong. And then I got a few job offers. And the Japan one, I almost got it. They were like, yeah, we'll apply for visa for you now. And then the UK one popped up. And I was like, oh, UK probably would be better for my CV because English speaking country teaching in the UK for the long run, it'll look better basically.
Yeah.
So I decided to come to UK. Oh my god, the first 6 months was horrific because I came to UK without knowing anyone basically, just like dropped
Yeah.
everything, got a job, no accommodation, $2,000 pounds in my bank account, and duffel bag and a backpack, and off I go.
Wow.
And then uh, I met in the first few weeks. I lived in a hostel, and I met
Yeah.
like amazing people there. And I looked for a place to stay. It's mostly house share,
Yeah.
but I know your situation. Your house share is very different from mine because
Yeah.
you have common area, people gather together, and you know each other. But the house share that I live in is just a room, and I don't really socialize with other people.
Yeah.
And I think, looking back from now, like looking back to what happened in the beginning, I think I had a period where I was really depressed. I just didn't
Yeah.
know it was depression because I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah.
As in, I didn't know how it felt like to be depressed. I hate like I would wake up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning every day, not
Wow.
being able to go back to sleep. I would call my parents crying, and my mom would be like, "Just come home." I was like, "No, I want to stay here."
Oh
I was
no.
stubborn. So, uh, first 6 months was quite difficult, but in that moment, I didn't know what was going on. I just felt really sad all the time.
Mm.
And then eventually, just this one time, one of my uni friends came to visit. Just called me out of the blue. I was like, "Oh, I'm in London. Come out. Let's have a drink." I was like, "Yeah." And then from that, I met a few friends. I think
Yeah.
I just didn't know how to go out and make friends in that situation. Met a few
Yeah.
friends, stayed for a year, and I was like, "Ooh, should I continue for another year?" My visa lasts for 2 years, so I decided to stay all the 2 years. And then I
Yeah.
met my husband. 8
Wow.
years later, here I am, still in London.
So he is the reason why you didn't leave after the 2 years.
Yes, he is the reason why I didn't leave. Don't know
It's
if I should say it in a more cheerful tone or just. Kidding, I'm kidding.
You really enjoy living in London now, right?
Yes, it's I'm settled. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
nice.
So what do you think in the beginning it was just the fact that you didn't know anyone and you, to be honest, as an adult, it's not as easy anymore to make friends if you don't
Mm,
actively put an effort into it, right?
yeah.
Like you really need to get or go out of your way to
Mm,
meet people and then to actually, you don't know if you vibe and you don't really know if that could become a proper friendship, and then you need to put effort into it to maintain this relationship.
yeah.
And if you don't have like all your colleagues, and yeah, it's not as easy anymore.
Yeah, and it just when I first came to UK, I wasn't great at teaching because I didn't know the curriculum. I was brand new to primary teaching because I only taught in different situations, scenarios before when I was in New Zealand. So it was very difficult to gel with with the other teachers because I just like was fish out of water basically,
Yeah, yeah,
trying to figure out what's happening and what to do and just so many new information constantly. So I think colleagues was quite difficult to make friends with.
yeah.
And
Did
it's
you?
not like, I agree. Like when you're in school, you have all these people around the same age as you, similar
Yeah.
experiences, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, it it I've learned a lot. I think from this experience living in London, I realize the value of spending time alone.
Yeah.
Because I
And
think,
would you
yeah,
say you enjoy being by yourself more than actually being with people?
I think I have social battery. Like
Yeah.
it does go down when I spend time with people. I
Yeah.
enjoy spending time with people, but equally, I do really value just like reading a book in a cafe, walking around London, looking at the views, that sort of thing.
And
So
that's just all by yourself?
yeah, oh, I love it. And just thinking about me is thinking about traveling by myself as well gives me
Yeah.
goosebumps because the excitement, the butterflies, it's just,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I love it, absolutely love it. And I wouldn't have known if I didn't come out all by myself just to
Yeah.
figure it out. Yeah. So despite the depression stage in the beginning, I think I've got a lot more out of coming out by myself than if I had got a job in New Zealand and stayed in New Zealand and just
Oh, yeah.
never left. Yeah.
So you would say you learned a lot about yourself as well
Yes,
by having that
definitely.
experience. Yeah.
Yes. I know it's very cliche. Yeah, when you have to get into a situation that's uncomfortable, you have
Yeah.
to figure something out and adapt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I think making yourself go out of your comfort zone is already
Mm.
like a big step. And then having that achieved is like high
Yeah.
five to yourself, right? It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, you need
It's
to
kind
kind
of,
of celebrate yourself a little bit for it as well.
yes. Like you traveled all the way from Germany. What made you decide to go to New Zealand?
Honestly, my one of my colleagues, she told me her dream country is New Zealand because of all the different landscape, and it has beaches, it has mountains, it has a jungle, it has just everything. And
Mhm.
I never thought much about New Zealand. And at that time I was ready to go just wherever. I also
Mhm.
sent application out to Australia. I had
Mhm.
almost an opportunity to go to Australia.
Mhm.
I sent out for Austria, which is pretty much the same because they even speak German, so that
Mhm.
wouldn't have been such a great challenge.
Mhm.
Switzerland and the US, I sent application out to New York and Boston,
Ooh,
and
nice.
I was at one of my visits over there, I visited Harvard and Yale, and I just absolutely loved it. And I thought if I
Yeah.
could be working in a lab over there, that would be just awesome. But I
Yeah.
think without having a visa, they didn't even look at my application, probably. Like, I literally never heard back from any of those.
Ah.
And another friend was telling me that she potentially could go with her business to Miami. So I was really close in going with her to Miami because she's also in a lab environment.
Yeah.
Then that didn't go ahead because she didn't want to risk it with her relationship. So
Ah.
I feel like everything just happened for a reason. And
Yeah.
then my previous employer, they texted back because
Mhm.
I was working in a lab for bee health for 7 years,
Yeah.
and they were looking for a person who could do a test, which is a bee disease.
Mhm.
So in that case, it was just, I also didn't have a visa, but at least I
Yeah.
created that contact in a way.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
then I just decided, okay, I know I won't get a visa that easily.
Mm.
So might as well try it with work and travel because then I can figure out if I just want to go for a little bit, if I want to go for longer. But the work and travel visa at that time, because I was 27, was within 2 weeks I had my visa.
Oh, that's
So
good. Yeah.
yeah. And that's how it happened to be New Zealand, to be honest. So I was open for a lot, and
Yeah.
it just happened to be the one where I actually started having a kind of connection with people for a job and all of that.
Wow. So how much notice did you have before you decided to? You said 2 weeks, and then were you off straight away?
No, I actually am also a person growing up in Germany, having that family and lifestyle and 5 million insurances. I was really like a secured person.
Yeah.
So I would just actually, I think I resigned in February and then I just finished off in July or something. So I
Okay.
gave really early notice so that they can figure out what to
5 months.
do.
5 months notice. That's like the best notice ever.
Yeah. I'm sure they were quite happy about that. And then I
Yeah.
just spent 1 month to kind of resign or I did resign before, but quit everything like my flat and my insurances and all of the stuff which you usually have when you have a
Mm.
life. And then I just dissolved kind of everything and moved back to my mom for 2 weeks and then my flight went. So,
Wow. That's
yeah.
quite a lot of things to organize, considering you have a settled
Yeah.
life already.
That's true. That's true. But it helped that my mom was still there because I'm still under the address of my mom. So I still
Mm.
have a couple of letters coming every now and then.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, as you said before, you learned that you love being by yourself.
Mm.
And for me, I realized I haven't found out yet. Like, I still enjoy more being with people, and I think
Mm.
I would love to be able to completely travel by myself without having any weird emotions. Like,
Mm.
I did come to New Zealand by myself, but
Mm.
as mentioned in one of the other episodes, I already met people at the second flight to New Zealand. So
Mhm.
I actually would love to be able to just go out by myself and feel completely content only with myself.
Mm.
So
I think I really admire that you have the skill to, because from what I see, you have like big groups of friends.
because I need them.
But I feel like maybe I lack. I don't. It's it's a skill to keep big groups of friends. I feel like, and I don't have that skill. I can chat with people. I feel very content with talking to anyone, but it's the maintaining of. I don't even know how you would get big groups of friends unless like I can't fathom how you do that because I have individual little groups of friends and that's about it and I'm like happy with just meeting up with them once in a while. But yeah, I don't have that skill set like you do. So I'm really impressed with people who has managed to be able to like gather groups of friends to hang out or to chill and everyone knows each other. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah. I
it's
think, growing up in the same town with the same school and most people were in the same area,
mm,
that helped a lot. And I'm really good in keeping in touch. And I think that's what it is because I do actively put effort into my friendships and stay in touch, even though it's not every day, not every week. But I
mm,
make sure that every now and then I contact my friends and because it's important to me and I would have never left my country if I would
mm,
have worried that I would lose my friends.
mm.
So in that case, I know that it's important to me and I at least try every now and then to check in and just stay in touch so that it doesn't feel awkward when I come back. And so far
Yeah.
it worked out. But
Mm.
for me, it's the opposite. I actually think it's a skill to be able to just be by yourself and to be happy with yourself. And I think, at the end of the day, what's left is us. Like we just have ourselves at the end of the day. And if
Mm.
we are happy with that, that's awesome. So I think it's always like what we don't have, we kind of admire.
I think while you're saying about keeping in touch with friends and staying in the same place, I think one of the reasons why I learned more to be by myself is also because I moved around quite a lot.
Exactly.
I do have some friends who I know, and when I go back to Taiwan, they're like, we'll hang out for a little bit, but it's never big groups of friends.
Yeah.
And because of that, eventually, I think I just got used to it. And at the same time, I've always been called, my mom always said, I'm like a bird. I just need a home, and I just fly around and back and forth and just move around. So
Yeah.
I have a strong sense that I want my like tiny bit of freedom.
Yeah.
So when I'm by myself, I have freedom to choose whatever I want to do, basically.
Yeah.
And I don't have to worry, oh, they don't want to do this. Maybe I have to compromise. Maybe it's just a bit of selfishness. I don't know. It depends on how you see it. But yeah,
But I
like,
also feel like that's a little bit of that traveler mindset or people who are moving countries and all of that. I feel like
mm,
that mindset just grows naturally because most of the people I talk to, it's not that they don't miss their home or they don't like their home. It's just that the the feeling of freedom and
mm,
it's just stronger and to be able to just do whatever you want because that's what like we have the privilege that we can do that. There's still lots of people who can't, right?
mm,
And if you would talk to them, who knows? But in our case, we are literally having also the passport to just go overseas
yes,
and to be welcome and
yeah,
not having to worry that the country won't let us in. And
definitely. We have
yeah, that's
we're quite
great.
lucky in that
Uh,
front where passports quite accepted most places. Yeah.
yeah, but you also have a dual passport, right? You have a Taiwanese passport and a New
Yes.
Zealand passport.
Yes. And I
Have
now
you?
have residency of the UK finally after 7
Wow.
years. Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations. I know how hard it is.
Yeah, it's been a long journey, but and it costs so much. Seriously, if anyone wants to be uh, moving to UK, you have to prepare to save up quite a lot
Yeah.
and prepare to stay for a long time before you actually become a resident.
So everyone who's listening, keep that in mind.
Totally, yes.
And
But
have
yeah,
you noticed any kind of advantage for having a Taiwanese and New Zealand passport and
not
now
really.
residency?
Not really, because I mostly use my New Zealand passport everywhere.
Yeah.
That's the one I used to apply for the visa. Um, I got a work visa. So I working holiday for the first 2 years. I think you had the same
Yeah.
for the first few years in New Zealand, and then afterwards was work visa. But the working holiday visa doesn't count towards the time you're staying here. So
Yeah.
you have the maximum amount of work visa you have to get is 6 years. The maximum is 6 years, but you have to stay at least five.
Yeah.
So the 2 years that I stayed doesn't count. I have to stay 5 years. So now, yeah, I only just got it this year. So, woohoo!
Yay. Yeah, I know it's a big achievement, so definitely worth celebrating.
Yeah, but dual visa, dual passport, I don't really see any benefit. I've just been using one the whole time, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, people ask me as well if I would want to have the New Zealand passport.
Mm,
But knowing that the German passport is also really strong, there's probably no need. While I know for some of my friends coming from a country where there is war and the safety is not really there, and for them it would mean the world to have a New Zealand passport because
mm,
they're literally not allowed to go into certain countries, which is sad because obviously it has something to do with the country, but not really anything to do with the people who are living in there. So,
mm,
but yeah, in that case, I'm also well aware of how privileged I am.
mm. I think I did actually going on the passport. I think getting a visa to UK, New Zealand passport was easier to get a visa.
Yeah,
Um, because I spoke to someone from Taiwan, they used Taiwanese passport to get a working holiday visa here,
yeah,
and they had to. It was very limited availability
yeah,
from like for UK Taiwanese to travel to the UK with working holiday. I don't know if it's just one case or everyone, but I think for me it was an easy process of getting the working holiday visa with a New Zealand passport.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think there is a big difference. Yeah. I also noticed I applied for a visa and my friends from Iran applied earlier and
Yeah,
they had to go through all these security checks and all of that stuff. And for me, it was quicker, even
yeah.
though they did it earlier. So, do you remember, or especially living so far away from your family,
Hmm.
pretty much you must feel a little bit like I do, probably, because your family lives in New Zealand and you are
Mm.
in London,
Mm.
and my family lives in Germany and I'm in New Zealand. So it's pretty
Hmm.
much same distance,
Yeah, pretty much.
opposite directions.
Exactly.
Which
How do I
time of
feel?
Yeah, which time of the year is usually like what's the most difficult part for you to be so far away?
Um, Several things. One is like watching my parents getting older every year, and
Yeah.
I feel, to be honest, a little bit guilty that I'm not there. And I just thinking about it makes me quite sad, to be honest, because
Yeah.
I feel like I'm missing out a lot of times with my parents. I
Yeah.
know for a fact if I stay there, we'll drive each other crazy. That's definitely true. But it's just I'm very aware. Like every time I speak to them online, like my parents take really good care of themselves. They keep themselves healthy, very active. It's just I have a sense of just I want to be able to live close enough to see them every month or so or every other month, but at
Yeah.
the same time not live with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But so that's difficult from my part. But at the same time, quite annoyingly, my brother would take photos of my mom's cooking and eat it in front of me.
Oh
And
yeah.
then that's when I'm like, that is so not fair. I wish I lived
Yeah.
closer. So, yeah, it's just,
Oh,
it would have been nice if we lived a bit closer.
yeah.
At the moment, a, it's not really possible at the moment, but yeah, eventually, hopefully, I'll be able to move back to New Zealand from at some point to just stay there.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'll do. I don't know if will be able to stay there for very long because I do enjoy London, where you have a lot of stuff going on constantly,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Oh
New Zealand is.
God, I can totally relate. It's
We're
it's
both tearing up.
honestly
Oh my god.
honestly, I can so relate because it's exactly the same. I feel
Yeah.
also a little bit guilty and they are not getting younger and also not that my brother would send me photos and is like kind of wanting to make me feel like bad about it, but my mom sends me pictures, especially last weekend. They just went out and my mom visited my brother in Hamburg
Mm,
and they spent like an amazing time together. And they also invited my best friend because she's kind of part of the family now.
that's
And
nice.
so it was my brother and his girlfriend and my best friend and my mom
Mm,
and her partner.
mm.
And they sent me photos and they were so happy. And I was
You're
just
like missing
having,
out.
yeah, I was just thinking, oh,
Having a
why?
moment of
I,
FOMO.
yeah, I want to be there too. I want to see you all. So
Yeah.
if I could, I would also half the distance so
Yes,
that,
at least half the distance somewhere.
yeah,
Um,
that's,
yeah, it's just when you, when you live so far away, it's very, and the time difference doesn't make it easy either.
yeah.
Well, right now I'm day and you're like nighttime, probably 11 o'clock. Oh God. So
No,
yeah,
at the moment it's 9 p.m. here.
9 p.m. Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Yeah, that's
so not too bad.
not too. That's all right.
Yeah,
That's all right. But yeah, it's I don't know what else to say. That's it, pretty much.
yeah, yeah.
So
Do
I'm
you have
glad.
any kind of tradition or like celebration you miss the most? Like, I know for me it's Christmas sometimes, but do you have any moment where it's like the hardest?
Uh, Not really. we at home we do celebrate Christmas a little bit, but not like extravagantly.
Yeah.
So it's not something that because when we were little, well, when my mom went back to work, Christmas wasn't a holiday in Taiwan, so she wouldn't be coming. We would just
Yeah.
go to church. And I hated it because you have to stay up really late, go to church for an hour, and then go home. But it was just a ritual.
Yeah.
Whatever, it's done. Chinese New Year, we would cook a lot,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I do want to be to answer your question. Actually, Chinese New Year, I think that would be the
Yeah.
big thing because we have barbecue. Sometimes we just cook loads and eat loads and play mahjong, that sort of thing. We have a ritual
Yeah.
of play mahjong. So yeah, that's the time where I miss the most, Chinese New Year.
Yeah. I say.
What about you? Christmas.
Yeah, I think in the beginning I was quite happy that I'm not there because the year I left was the year my parents separated. And so for us,
Mm,
Christmas was always a big family thing. We would play games together and unpack the presents and
mm,
roll the dice and
yeah,
listen to music and go to church together. So it would be such a family thing. So the first year I left, my parents wouldn't have been there together. So
mm,
I was quite happy that I don't experience a Christmas at home without the whole family.
right.
But then after a few years here and now having a little bit of the situation has settled down a little bit.
Mm,
I think I'm ready to go back for Christmas and
mm,
to see family and to spend time with family. And even if it's not all together, but to have one day with one part and the other day with the other part and just spend a little bit of family time, have it cozy and dark and cold and drink a hot drink and
yeah.
not like here having summer on Christmas. Yeah.
New Zealand is where Santa Claus go for like post Christmas holiday.
Yeah. And then accidentally dropped a couple of gifts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely not the traditional Christmas vibes in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Would you
So,
go back then? Oh, sorry.
to Germany, you mean?
Yeah, for Christmas.
If everything is working out, I would love to go next year.
Mm,
So, we'll see how that goes.
yeah.
But yeah, I kind of have that in the back of my mind, and then potentially we'll be close enough to London to maybe pay a visit.
Yay! Why not? Why not? It will be
Yeah,
freezing cold and wet, but
I think the wet part is a little annoying, but
yeah.
um, for me it's okay, especially with Christmas markets and all the lights. I love the lights
Mm.
and the
Oh,
dark, so
so jealous. You have the best Christmas markets in Germany. That's amazing.
yeah, so that's something I do really miss. But who knows, maybe you also feel like you want to come over at that time, so you are always welcome when I'm there.
Yeah, oh, that would be great. That would be cool. We're just
So
organizing trips now.
we might discuss that later on. Yeah, so before we end an episode, we always have the quick three questions
Mhm,
where you answer with one word or one sentence.
mhm.
You're not getting any penalty for using more, but the idea is to have it intuitively
Weights off,
coming out.
weights off. Cut it off,
Yeah.
cut it off. Too long.
Exactly. So yeah, question number one. What country would you choose to settle down?
Do you mean retirement?
Well,
Or
more like, okay, I can see myself staying there long term. You might always change your mind one day, but just in general thinking this is where I want to spend most of my time.
probably London.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
nice.
the city. I'm attracted to the city.
Yes, you are in love with London.
Yeah. Yes, I am.
What do you miss the most from Taiwan? And since New Zealand is also part of your home,
Mm.
what do you miss the most of New Zealand?
New Zealand is my parents and the environment because it's very relaxed. The weather is always pretty nice,
Yeah.
unlike London. Um, and everyone's so chilled there in New Zealand. You don't,
Yeah.
you're not rushing around. Everyone's just barefoot, wearing their jandals,
Yeah,
just chilling.
I can confirm.
Yeah. I was very shocked when I came to London. I was wearing jandals and just like this gross shorts. I was walking around City Central and I was an eyesore. And I felt so embarrassed walking around. That's when I started realizing I need to dress up for London.
Yeah.
That was my shock, my initial shock. But yeah,
You
um,
recovered.
yeah, I recovered. For Taiwan, it's family, food, and memories. The
Yeah.
process growing up, it just
Yeah.
feels like home as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very beautiful.
Thank you.
So, what do you love the most about London or the UK?
I like the city. It's busy. It's convenient. I feel like I have a sense of freedom here. And also
Yeah.
because it's so far away from either New Zealand and Taiwan, but I think that's
Yeah.
why I also enjoy it because it's nowhere near home.
It's such a paradoxon, right?
Yeah, I know.
You hate it and you love it.
Exactly. This is why my mom's like, "Come home." I know, but I'm depressed. But I know I don't want to come
Yeah.
home.
I miss you, but I don't. But I miss you. Yeah, I can
Uh.
totally relate.
I'm glad it's not just me.
No, I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way.
Good, good, good.
So, thank you so much for having time and making this call work,
Thank
especially
you.
with the connection from one end of the world to the other.
Yeah. Let's hope the audio works out. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm very grateful to have you as my guest. So, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. And I hope you will enjoy this episode. And I see you soon. Bye bye.